Thank you, Jerry. I'd like to introduce our chairman this year of our York County Historical Committee. It is Beverly Powell. It is not Bonnie Carwack, who was our past chairman the last few years, and put her name in the program and recognize her past assistance with the committee. But Beverly Powell is going to do our welcome.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome all of y'all to our Memorial Day service. Thank you.
Now for our invocation. We had Dr. Boston lined up to do our invocation, and he's a retired medical doctor for the Navy. He's also a minister, and he called and said he had a funeral to do at noon today, which was very important, so he wouldn't be able to be with us. This is prayer for those who have fallen in battle. It's a Catholic prayer, but it covers everyone. All-powerful God, we honor today those men and women, our sons and daughters, husbands and wives, fathers, brothers, sisters, and mothers, who have laid down their life for their country, whether weary or emboldened, quiet or defiant, vulnerable to or ready when you call them home. Their sacrifice is too humbling for words, except these uttered in prayer. Loving Lord, bless them forever in your eternal peace, cherish their spirit, honor their commitment, send them our love, and we will never forget their service that they gave. At this time, we'd like everyone to stand for the posting of the colors. VFW Post 824 will post our national and state colors, and York High Naval Junior ROTC will post our service. Senior Master Sergeant Terry Taylor will do our national anthem.
Present. Colors. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Harry, colors. Right, face, detail, forward, march.
Thank you, Terry. She always does a wonderful job for us, as well as the ROTC and VFW Post 824. Before we do our Memorial Day message, I'd like to recognize some of our guests here today. Danny Diggs, our new senator, in Richmond. We're proud of you, former sheriff. So if you recognize him as a sheriff, that's maybe not be a good thing, I don't know. But certainly recognize him as our new senator. Here from the Board of Supervisors, I'll go from our left, Sheila Knoll, great representation, Stephen Roan and his wife is here, Tom Shepard, and Doug Holron. Did I pronounce that right? Almost. Okay, I'm going to work on that one. But we're glad to have you guys be a part of this. Thanks for being here. Now, I've got photographs passing around. Of course, we had to change the ceremony a little bit because the weather was not cooperative. We went 21 years with the ceremony outside, not having any issues. And last year and this year, we've had to come inside, and we didn't make our final decision today till 10:45. So you can see the chairs were ready to go. But what I wanted to talk about, you know, when you get a chance, if it's not raining, take a look at the names on the monument, take a look at the photographs going around, and remember that these are all brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, cousins, or folks from our community. And we've tried to be all-inclusive in the monument as to who goes on there. So there's 131 names on there representing, I think ours goes back the furthest, Bacon's Rebellion. Some of those that were on the wrong side of the king back in that time period up to the War on Terror, which is ongoing. So remember, we've still got service members in harm's way every day. It just goes on every day. So please keep all of those folks in your prayers. We've got some places I want to talk about. When you look at the names on the monument, these folks were lost in places. You're familiar with the names. Monmouth Courthouse, Brandywine, Battle of Hampton, War of 1812, Antietam, Gettysburg, Belleau Wood, the Meuse-Argonne Offensive, Iwo Jima, Normandy, the hedgerow fighting, the Battle of the Bulge, the Chosin River Reservoir, the Pusan Perimeter, Korea, Hamburger Hill, Pleiku, in Vietnam, Baghdad, Kandahar, in the modern War on Terror. And that's just to name a few of the places where we had multiple casualties. So I want to talk about, you get familiar with the people, and like John Ray Forrest, who's killed on the first day of Iwo Jima, so he's killed in battle, but we've got a number of casualties of people that died in odd circumstances. And going back, as I said, we've got Bacon's Rebellion. Of the 4 people on there, 2 of them died in prison of ill use in prison. The other 2 were hung. So they just chose the wrong side that particular time. In the Battle of Hampton, we had a number of 5 York County people, which, you know, fairly short war. They were militia. 5 of them get killed in combat trying to defend Hampton when the British marched from Salters Creek in. So you've got those combat situations, but you've also got the guys like Norman Russell Evans. Norman Russell Evans enlists, he's in the 82nd Airborne and doing the Vietnam War. And when his nephew asked me about him qualifying for the monument, I said, well, let me get all the circumstances. So it took us a while to get his name on there. He gets killed in action or dies in action in 1966, but he's not in Vietnam, he's in the Dominican Republic. There's a coup going on. They send a battalion of the 82nd Airborne down there, and 26 American soldiers die as a part of that conflict. So how do you not recognize him? He's lost in a military operation, so we added him under Vietnam with the caveat Dominican Republic. There's Horace Vernon Lindsay. He graduates, born in 1930, graduates from Poquoson High School in 1947 because that was the county school at the time. And it goes in the Air Force. And during the Vietnam War, his job is to fly C-130s from Taiwan to Vietnam. He ferries troops back and forth for R&Rs. So he's not counted as a combat casualty for Vietnam simply because when he was flying the route from Taiwan back to Vietnam. Had he been flying out of Vietnam, he would be a Vietnam casualty. So we chose to add him. They take off from the American base on Taiwan and fly into a cloud bank into a mountain. 43 American servicemen are killed, and he was one of the pilots. So once we've got all that information together, we want to make sure he was recognized. There's two men in World War II that are on their way home. The war is over. Albert Kazai, whose photograph's going around, he's killed flying out of an American base in the middle of the country, and the plane takes off, takes a dive into a riverbed, and it kills all on board, I think about 21 men who are returning home. And then there's the Wainwright, Howard Wainwright, who's actually flying home from the Burmese theater in World War II, and I've told the story before. They land in Hawaii, and the plane's supposed to be getting refueled, but it doesn't. And they don't know that they're in flight coming back to California, and they try to turn around and go back, and they don't make it back. And his brother, Benny, who was also a World War II veteran, told me that when he went through his mother's effects, he found a letter from another airman that survived the crash. And he said, I saw him swimming, so I know he survived the crash, but he was not recoverable. So we've got those people. We've got Vernon Huddleston. Vernon's on flying with a group called the Red Raiders. He's flying on B-25s, I believe it is. And they get shot down, but the men are able to jump. So the crew evacuates, but the first 5 that jump over water, and he was one of them. It's in the Pacific Theater, so he doesn't survive. He's on the memorial for those bodies weren't recovered that's in Hawaii. The five survive, 5 jump in the water. So there's always those oddities. There's Mr. Gray, first name escapes me, but he's our first World War casualty, and he's in the Navy, and he doesn't die in combat. He dies in a training exercise in the Gulf of Mexico. As part of the war, when we start bringing everything up to go to war, we'd already declared war, and in 1917, and so he dies as part of a military exercise to prepare to go overseas. So all of these people are important and need to be recognized. It's not always a combat casualty. It's the guys like Benedict Hudgens. He's in Richmond, dies in a private home in Richmond of basically pneumonia. And so he's not a combat casualty, but he dies as a part of a conflict. There's just so many on there that go that way. There's a fellow that he's a World War I veteran, and he becomes a chaplain over at the Naval Weapons Station. World War II starts. He decides to go back active duty. So he becomes active duty, and he has a heart attack, and he dies. And he was so well known in the Army that he was one that got the chaplains, military chaplain system set up, the school set up for that. So he was quite a fellow, but he doesn't survive the war. He didn't even have to re-enlist. He didn't even have to go back to combat. There's the guys like Glenn Page. You may have known Glenn. Glenn is enlisted in the 101st Airborne with another fellow from Pecos, and they go in on the buddy system. And Glenn, he dies in combat on Hamburger Hill, and it's spelled out in a book about Hamburger Hill. He's part of a detachment that's sent up the back side to try to break in, and they get ambushed. And his buddy, was a Watkins, saw his backpack with his name on it on a pile of clothing of men who had been killed in combat, and that's how he found out that his buddy had been lost. So every one of those fellows on the monument have a story. And so when you get a chance, like I said, if it's not raining, get a chance, bruise up, you'll see a lot of the same names up and down the monument. Wainwrights, Watkins, some names you've never heard of that were part of York County at one time, but they're all on there. And we've got our newest, unfortunately, 6 war on terror victims. And one of those is killed in Afghanistan. He's in a meeting. He's simply in a meeting. And an Afghan pilot comes in and shoots up the meeting. And it wasn't that he was a terrorist. This Afghan pilot had fought the Russians. He just lost control, and he killed a number of airmen, 2 from Langley. And Ransom was one of the 2 in his photographs in the group going around. There's another fellow on there, McGrill, who was I talked to a fellow in the Navy SEALs. McGrill is killed in combat in Iraq. And he's a Navy photographer, but he's not a Navy SEAL, but he's attached to the SEAL teams. So when I was able to determine that through a friend, I found out, yes, he was attached to a SEAL team. He wasn't a SEAL, but he was killed in combat serving with the Navy SEAL team as a photographer. There's another fellow, and the name's escaping me right now, who's also killed in the War on Terror. The guy serves 30 years in the American Air Force, gets right out, and a month later, he's back in Iraq doing the same job, working with the Air Force, but he's a retired Air Force, and he's killed in an IED accident. So we added him because it wasn't right not to. He's killed in a military action. He'd served his country. So again, that's what these names are about. So the places, if you look at the base of the monument, we have the bricks there closer to the monument that's spelling out some of the conflicts these folks were in. And then there's other bricks around that are dedicated to the men on the monument, the men and women on the monument. But take the time to look them over. We've got a Silver Star winner from World War II on there, killed in hedgerow fighting with a tank destroyer unit. We've got fellows that end up with the Spanish flu. Floyd Diego White, the Spanish flu. They're overseas, they're in combat, but the flu is what gets them because, 1918 it killed a lot of people. So please take the time to think about that, look at these folks, and take in who they were. And some of you are probably related to some of them on there. At this time, I would like to ask people that have served or are serving to stand in the American military. I heard this morning a good comment on this. We just did Armed Forces Day over in Newport News Saturday a week ago, and Armed Forces Day is for the current military. Veterans Day is for those who have served, and Memorial Day is for those who didn't return. We'd like to thank everyone for coming. At this time, we'd like to place the wreaths. We've altered the ceremony a little bit to fit inside, but Disabled American Veterans Chapter 13, Terry's always a part of our program. We're so thankful for it. If everyone would stand for the wreaths to be placed, please. Comte de Grasse Chapter, National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution. And Sarah's not that old. I just want to let y'all, make sure everyone understands it. She's not an original daughter. Morale Society, Children of the American Revolution. This is another group that does a lot of good here in the county. And while you're still standing, we're going to have taps. Thank you. That was our Historical Committee member, Jerry Carwack. So, and we talk about often, taps is not an easy piece to play, so even though it might sound that way. At this time, for the benediction, after looking at everything possible, I always come back to this one because I think it says so much. It is the soldier, not the minister, who has given us freedom of religion. It is the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the soldier and airman and sailor, not the poet, and not the campus organizer who has given us freedom to protest. It is the soldier, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. It is the soldier, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. It is the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows a protester to burn the flag. That was written by Charles M. Provence. We'll have the retirement of the colors. Everyone will remain standing. As the colors are being retired, take a minute, please, to thank our VFW Post 824. They help us every year with this ceremony. They're wonderful people. They do a lot for veterans. So it's a great group. Give them a pat on the back. Also, our Naval Junior ROTC unit, I've seen them, I told them, I spoke earlier at a different ceremony. I've seen them at the Waterman's Museum doing volunteer work. They do a lot of volunteer work in the county. It's such an active, great organization to have as part of the county. They're a real ambassador for York High School, I believe. Before you sit down, I would like to say one more thing. A fellow that's helped me the last few years with Veterans Day and Memorial Day is Ulysses Robinson on our committee. And we got word Thursday night, Ulysses had been in the hospital in intensive care, and he passed away Thursday night. So please keep him in your thoughts. He was a career educator. He was a York County citizen and a York County native, and he loved his county history, and just a wonderful guy. Please keep him and his family in your prayers. Thank you. You may be seated. And as you go out, the Fifes and Drums is going to play a little bit of music for you. Again, another great organization, a great ambassador. Part of the group is actually marching in D.C. today. So the group that we've got here is their second squad, I would say, but they've got alumni. Jim's done a tremendous job with them. We're very fortunate to have so many great organizations as part of us. We'd like to thank you all for taking the time out to come and be a part of this ceremony as well. All right. And if you see anybody with a red shirt on, I don't think Bonnie's in a red shirt, but historical committee members, give them a pat on the back too, because they do a lot of volunteer work here in the county. And Sarah, she's not wearing a red shirt. But it's a great organization. We're very fortunate. The board does a lot for us to help us get out there. But hopefully it's not raining. If you get outside, please take time to walk around the monument. Thank you for coming.